Within my previous introduction, the models that were used were done free-handed. As such, they had some inherent flaws during animation. They were also useless for modeling. As I mentioned, it was a video designed to introduce myself to the technology involved in the production of this series of videos. Since then, I have written a script for 3D Studio Max that will allow me to generate a Rodin coil spline and its corresponding geometry. This will allow for more accurate modeling and smoother animation. As you can see, the parameters of the coil can be predetermined. This is a Rodin coil spline. It can be used for visualizations and animation path information, among other things. Doesn't this star look trippy? Now, let's create a larger spline so that we may have a closer look. I must say that the vortex on this coil is very cool looking. Now I shall create the spline's corresponding geometry. This geometry encompasses the 10-degree requirement for each coil. 3 of these can be rotationally offset by 10 degrees and used to create a full toroid. The really nice thing about having the script is the ability to determine the scale of the various constituents necessary for the coils that I intend to build, and the fact that I can be as creative and elaborate with coil configurations as I want. Let's say, for instance, that I would like to determine what offsetting parts of the shear line would look like. I would make the second coil's toroid taller. After rotating the second coil by 10 degrees, notice that I now have 2/3 of a toroid. The shear line is now modified so that it is only intact in the center and the outside of the toroid. It will be interesting to see how this type of coil would behave on the lab bench. In nature, it is rare or perhaps quite improbable that all toroids are perfect in shape. These variations could account for the myriad of effects produced by the torsion field. Perhaps this is one of the reasons that a substantial amount of quantum mechanical principles reside within the realm of probability. Here, I create a spline the size of the larger coil. The spline can be rendered or invisible during animation. I then apply a two-sided texture to the coil so that both sides of each polygon are visible when rendered. I have also written a Windows application in Microsoft's .NET framework that will output a toroidal tile set image that can be used to texture a toroid. This application represents the birth of an endeavor to develop some sort of means of analyzing the Rodin solution. Though it only outputs images right now, eventually, once Mr. Rodin makes his publication available to me, I will figure out how to apply vortex mathematics algorithms within. As you can see, the images output by the application can be texture mapped to a toroid. Currently, it is up to me to tweak the settings to make the graphic wrap seamlessly. However, my next goal is to rid myself of this need within the application. In the meantime, however, analysis and grid population must be done in an image editor. This texture is what is being used in one of the animations later in this video. Here, I have it mapped to a toroid, with a mildly opaque coil encompassing it. I was very impressed to find that this image mapped to the toroid seamlessly and that the coil itself, in its default creation position and orientation, aligned directly over a zigzag pattern on the toroid. Now let's explore the scene for a bit. I have the animation set up to rotate the toroid. Quite simple, I know. As I have mentioned, this endeavor is for visualization purposes. The rotation sequence was designed to slowly begin rotating counterclockwise. It accelerates to a maximum velocity by the middle of the animation, then gradually slows to a halt as it makes its way to the end. As you will notice in the rendered product, it creates an illusion that I call the helicopter effect. When watching a helicopter in a movie, the frame rate of the camera versus the speed of the propeller blades sometimes makes the blade look like it is not moving, or even moving backwards. In this video, the grid appears to stop moving when the velocity of rotation reaches a certain point, but the blue tiles provide an abstract view of the rotation and seems to be moving over the surface of the toroid. In the second render, I have empty tile set mapped to the toroid to provide a basis of comparison. Here I step through the frames to watch a rough draft of the animation sequence. I think that I set it up to rotate 20 or 30 times within this video. The frame rate of my desktop recording application does not catch every step in the animation, but you will be able to see this in the final product. And without further ado, allow me to present the animations. Notice how the toroid appears to be rotating in the opposite direction, and then slows down. Here is the same texture without the blue tiles and coil. Thanks for watching.